early this morning. Let's bring in White House reporter for the Associated Press, Jonathan Lemire. Jonathan, let's just start with a timeline. Let's talk about Hope Hicks, the first person that we know in this group that was infected with COVID. Talk about her contact with the president and the team on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Certainly, Joe. Hope Hicks is one of the president's closest aides. She was there during the original campaign, worked in the White House, left for a time, returned. She is often one of the last staffers in the room with Donald Trump, one that he relies on heavily for advice and counsel. And she also is in extraordinary close quarters with the president with great frequency. And that includes this week. She was part of the traveling party Tuesday night to Cleveland, Ohio, for the president's first debate against Joe Biden. She was also part of the trip on Wednesday when he went to Minnesota for a couple of events, including a rally. And here's where the chronology is important. Everyone in the White House who has contact with the president, who's going to come in proximity to the president, and that includes members of the press, reporters in the press pool, are given that Abbott, the rapid test, which you have results in about a half hour or so. Everyone on Tuesday was tested. Both Trump and Biden were tested before the debate that night. Hope Hicks was tested again Wednesday morning, and the test came back negative ahead of that trip to Minnesota. But it was while they were on that trip, while the president was giving a rally, that she started to feel sick. She just started to display symptoms. She isolated on Air Force One on the flight back to Washington. She then tested positive. Two things here that are important. She was in Marine One helicopter Wednesday morning, leaving the White House to Joint Base Andrews, about a 10 or 15-minute flight, from which point they get on Air Force One onto Minnesota. That is extremely close
quarters. Who else was
she
on
would
that?
have been just a few feet away from the president.
Jonathan, I know we have a delay.
Yep.
Jonathan, I know we have a delay, but first of all, Wednesday morning when she was on that trip, and first of all, I must say, these Abbott tests that the White House personnel have been taking, there's a picture of the president, and it looks like Hope Hicks wearing a mask inside the helicopter. But the tests, the Abbott tests, at least reports over the past several months, not the most accurate of tests. But they took the Abbott tests on Tuesday. She tested negative. Wednesday, she was on that helicopter. Who else was on the helicopter with the president?
Kayleigh McEnany, the press secretary, other senior staffers were on that helicopter as well. And it is protocol, it should be noted. On the helicopter, staffers wear masks. But on Air Force One, they don't. And on Air Force One, in the president's quarters, in his office, near the front of the plane, that is also, it is like the West Wing, where it's actually a very small office space. Staffers are within a few feet of each other most of the time. And that includes the president, who has staffers coming in and out of his office on the plane, where masks are not worn. You're right about the Abbott test. It is not considered 100% accurate. That is what everyone is given at the White House to create this sort of sense of, to protection for the president. What happened here is important, Joe, is that she tested positive, isolated on the flight home Wednesday night from Minnesota. She was showing symptoms, came back on the plane, was isolated. Thursday morning, tested positive. Her test results were known. Thursday morning, White House staff knew that Hope Hicks had tested positive and had been in close contact with the President of the United States. Yet, Thursday afternoon, the President still traveled to Bedminster, New Jersey for an in-person fundraiser where he mingled with dozens, if 100 supporters. So again, the White House knew that Hope Hicks had tested positive and the President had been in close contact with her. Yet he proceeded to still travel yesterday for his fundraiser. Last night, he and the First Lady were tested as well. First with an Abbott test, and then later with the more accurate test. And it was in that interim between his interview with Sean Hannity around 9 p.m. and then at 1 a.m. when he made the announcement that he had indeed tested positive. That's when they got the results from the more accurate test. And that result, of course, Joe, that not only, as you said, raises questions about government right now, but completely upends this campaign and completely throws aside what the president's message has been all along, that this virus was on its way out, that just yesterday the president said we had turned its corner, the nation as a nation, against this virus, and that it was about to be defeated, and yet hours later he himself came back with a positive result.
Yeah, and as you said, Thursday morning, he knew that he'd been in close contact with somebody who tested positive. He still went to his fundraiser Thursday afternoon. So obviously, anybody that was at that Thursday fundraiser with the president will obviously need to be tested. And any people they've been in contact with since that fundraiser on Thursday obviously will need to be tested too. And again, we don't know who the Supreme Court nominee has been in contact with over the past few days regarding White House staff, but obviously she will be need to be tested too. And I think we may have quite a few government officials. I don't know if she would be one of them who are going to need to quarantine for the next 14 days.
Yeah.
But Mika, a few things. We showed a picture of Hope Hicks on the helicopter wearing a mask. That's, I'm told, is actually from September the 14th.
Yeah.
We haven't seen any images of Hope Hicks on the helicopter from a few days ago when she was on the helicopter when she likely had COVID. But again, a lot of interaction between Hope Hicks, the president, members of the staff over the last few days. So this may be a White House and lockdown for the next few weeks.
I would think so, and I think it's worth backing up a little bit more even, because we've got a slew of doctors and experts that we're going to be talking to this morning about the process to contact trace to try and figure out the source here. It may not be Hope Hicks. Who got it first between Donald and his wife Melania? Where they got it is still potentially a question. And this virus, how it plays out in each person is very different. Some people have no symptoms at all. We'll be having a doctor on this morning who had COVID, who did just fine, and he's in his 60s. So there's so many questions here. But yes, the one thing we do know is that Hope Hicks tested positive, and now the president and his wife has as well. So Willie, again, so many questions, not just about how this began, but who else in the administration could have potentially been exposed.
When you look at these ripple effects, I'm just looking at those images and we wonder who else could have been exposed. You see Jared Kushner walking very closely next to Hope Hicks on Wednesday as they boarded Air Force One. That's them getting on Marine One before they got to Air Force One. That means Ivanka Trump, of course, as well. Dan Scavino is in that image. Stephen Miller, the advisor, is there as well. So when you ask about further ripple effects, the White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, I want to underline, has spent a lot of time with Amy Coney Barrett, taking her to her meetings around Capitol Hill. Meadows was huddled with Mitch McConnell. Now he's been exposed there to the majority leader. So, I mean, as you look at this chart, it goes out and out and out toward the horizon. And we're going to have to, the contact tracing, as Joe points out, is going to be extensive and complicated. Let's talk to.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.